minus 4 minutes. T minus 3 minutes. T minus 2 minutes. T minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Yeah, look, black and blue lines. Yeah. That's a new vibe. Yeah. It's black and blue lines. Yeah. That's a new vibe. Yeah. A park catalyst. I think we got a hit. Yeah. A black and blue lines. Yeah. Look, we got Prince Blue and Steph talking black and blue lives. Yeah. The black and blue lives. Yeah. It's Steph and blue.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? What is up? It is the Black and Blue Lives podcast. I am your host, Dr. Prince Blue. And if you're wondering, where is your partner in crime? Where's Step? Well, he has a very good reason for not being here. He's at a breast cancer fundraiser slash event showing his love and appreciation for those who are going through it. And he's showing his support is something that's near and dear to him. Maybe he will tell you why that is, because that is his story to tell. But he's at a cancer fundraiser event. So shout out to Step when he said that he had that to do. I said no problem. I will pick up the slack and I will do the episode solo, which brings me to how sometimes, police officers are solo. I know that in a lot of movies they show police officers, with a partner, with a person they ride patrol with and stuff, things of that nature. But that depends on the department, and it depends on if that's something they prefer to do. Me, I work for CMPD, so you rode on patrol mostly by yourself. So going to do this show dolo by myself, and hopefully we will get something from it. So this episode is about, when the badge comes off, and I speak about that not um physically, not just physically, but metaphorically, psychologically, mentally. When that badge comes off, what do officers do? What do they turn to? And I say that because I retired in 2019, and it was dark for a while, because think about it. You go from minimum 45 to 50 hours of your week is already taken. You know what you're going to be doing. You know you're going to be working. You know you're going to encounter some things, and you know that you're going to your day is pretty much set for you. Well, when I retired, that was 50 hours a week where I had absolutely nothing to do. I had nobody to talk to outside of the house. I had no other interactions with human beings. And that is something that a lot of officers deal with. And a lot of people don't understand that when you are used to you're around your coworkers more than you are around your whole family. When you're a police officer, you know more about your fellow officers' lives than you know about what's going on in your own life, because people bring that to work, they talk about it, and you have your partner's back. And the one thing about policing that I enjoyed a whole lot was the loyalty and the camaraderie that came with it. And when that is gone, when I retired, that was gone. And it's not out of a mean, it's not out of a like a they don't do it on purpose, but it's just one of those things where out of sight, out of mind. And you lose that. You don't talk to your coworkers anymore. You don't know what's going on in the department. You don't know what's going on in the streets. And the text messages stop, and the phone calls stop. Everything slows down. The only time you're really interacting with anybody you work with is on social media. And that was fine for a while, but when you when a lot of your conversations stop, and then you start having to deal with your own demons, your own bouts of depression, your own things. And when I say I dealt with things that were dark, I mean that. No, I didn't have social media depression. I didn't have TikTok depression. I didn't have that stuff where you just be like, well, I just didn't feel like myself today, so I'm depressed. No, I was clinically diagnosed way back in 2009 with major depressive disorder. And then on top of that, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So you got to deal with all that. Then on top of that, I had health issues. I had type 2 diabetes. I had high blood pressure. I had all that stuff. And when you go through that stuff by yourself, you really start finding out things about yourself, some things that you really don't care to know. And for the most part, I'm gonna have to be honest. When I was a police officer and I wasn't well and physically I wasn't myself, guess who was picking me up? It was the people that I worked with. Hey Blue, you don't look too good. Hey Blue, won't you really get yourself together? Hey Blue, look, I work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You could work out with me. Like, we pick each other up. But guess what? Once I retired, that stuff stops. Because and I get it, for the most part, I'm no longer a problem anymore. They don't have to worry about me being out there and not being healthy and not being able to back them up because I'm not there. So that's out of sight, out of mind. And a lot of police officers can't handle that. I couldn't handle that for a while. So I had to transition a lot. I had to figure out some things about myself. I had to find things to do outside of the badge. And that became hard because you have to really find out things about yourself. Because think about it. Your whole life is uh centered around being a police officer. That's your identity. That's who you are. That's gone now. Who are you? Who was I? You could say that I was a father, you could say that I was a husband, but think about this as well. Those years, me being a police officer, I missed a lot of things. I missed a lot of changes. I missed a lot of growth. I was there for as much as I could be. I either be honest, I was there more than a lot of other police officers was there for their families. I can say that. But I still miss things. I still miss games. I still miss school events. I still miss dance recitals and things of that nature because I had to work. And with that, your kids grow. Next thing you know, you coming in, you be like, hey, you want to watch Marvel with me? And then your kid looks at you, he's like, I don't watch that anymore. And then you're like, well, when you stop watching Marvel? Those are the things that you miss. And then you get more depressed. And then now you go from being out and about, away from your spouse to now you're around constantly. And when you're around constantly, guess who's going to get the brunt of whatever it is that you're going through? Your spouse. That's why it's very important to have strong people in your life. And my wife she was my foundation. Like, she knew I was going through it. She knew stuff was wrong. She knew I was depressed. She knew I was in a dark place. And for the most part, she tried her best to nurture and, she knew when to, I guess you want to call it baby me. But she also knew when she was like, okay, enough is enough. We need you to be the man that you are. We need you to be the protector that you are. We need you to be an example for the children. You can't be upstairs, eating Cheetos off your belly. The only time the kids see you is when you come downstairs and get snacks. True story. Be in my own world, be in my office. I come downstairs, get something to eat, and I come back upstairs. I literally ate myself into more depression because the more I ate, the more I was disgusted with myself. The bigger I got, the more I was disgusted with myself. I ate myself to 305 pounds. And then I was too ashamed to reach out to anybody, to reach out to the people that I used to work with because, they got their own things going on. So what did I have to do? I had to figure out things for myself. I had to figure out what was I going to do with the next chapter of my life. And that's when I told myself that I had already started going to school while I was working, while I was on a patrol, when I was on patrol. And then I just decided, I'm going to keep working. I'm going to keep taking classes. One class turned into two class turned into three class. One class, I made sure that every semester I took a class. Then, I kept taking classes enough to I got my associate's degree. I got my associate's degree. I looked around. I said, you know what? Why stop at associates? Let's get it back. You know what's the funny thing? I found out that I like to learn. I like school. I like information. I like receiving information. I got addicted to the grind of the next step, the next goal. I treated it as, you know, um, like, when you're being competitive against yourself. Like, I would tell myself, there's no way you can get a bachelor's. You ain't gonna get a bachelor's. You stuck at a high school diploma. You're too old to go to school. They're gonna laugh at you. You're not a great writer. You're not a good writer. You don't know what you're doing. So I used all that self-doubt to push myself forward. And it worked. I got my bachelor's. Then I sat around and I said, you know what? Why not just keep going? And then I kept going. I entered them. Uh I put in an application for the master's program. Then I got accepted into that. And then I started taking classes. Started taking classes. And then I realized, hey, there's really something to this school thing. And I continued to do that. And then I got my master's degree. And then, I thought I was set. I was like, hey, I'm retired. I got a master's degree. I'm good to go, right? Still wasn't happy. Still didn't know what I was going to do, because the one thing about being a police officer, it's a very specific skill. It's a niche. Like, it's hard to market yourself as a police officer, because guess what people are going to see you as? Guess what the jobs are going to come across? Security. 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 You can market yourself, you can doctor your resume, you could do all that. But at the end of the day, when you get in front of these employers, guess what they're going to say? You were a police officer for this amount of years. Okay, what other skills? How can you make your skills as a police officer work for this company? And you have to figure that out. And you know what I figured out? I figured out that I got to figure something else out, because I don't want to be a security guard. I don't want to do security. I don't want to do, anything that has to do with that. So I was stuck. I was legitimately stuck. Correct, AJ. Secret Service politics. The thing, Secret Service, FBI, ATF. Like, you just end up in law enforcement when you retire. Now, you got some people that they become like directors of security and things of that nature, but that's not something I wanted to do either. So was I think I told this story again, but I think I told the story before, but I'm gonna tell it again. Me and my wife was sitting around, and it was during the pandemic, and we all had COVID, the whole family. And we was sitting in the bed, and I don't know if it was a delusion or what it was. We was sitting there. We was watching Law and Order SVU, and it was an episode where a social worker went to visit a kid in a New York apartment, and the kid was in a cage, dead, like in a cage inside of an apartment. And they asked that social worker, when was the last time you checked on this kid? And he was like, I was just out here. And then they checked his logs, and it said he was just out there, but come to find out, he was doctoring the logs. And it became a whole wide scandal that social workers and CPS was saying that they was checking on children when they wasn't. Why? Because they were overworked and they couldn't make it out to the kids like they should. So I turned to my wife and I said, you know what? I want to be a social worker. And my wife was like, you don't feel good because, no, there's no way. Why would you want to be a social worker? I was like, I'm gonna go back to school and get my master's in social work. So I filled out for all the social work programs, and then I finally got into one. And the recruiter, the admissions officer, she was like, I don't mean no harm. We would love to have you here, but if you're gonna do 3 more years of school, get your master's degree, and then just have that. You're not going to have any certification. You're not going to have anything behind it. And you're just going to wind up working for CPS or something like that. And that's when she was like, why don't you, she was like, have you ever considered getting your doctorate degree since both of your degrees is in criminal justice? And I said, no. I was like, if you don't want me to go to school for 3 more years, why would I go to school for my doctorate? So, my brain, I was like, she don't think I can do it. And then I got into school, and then I got my doctorate degree, and then it was like again another step where it was like, what are you going to do with your life? What is it now? And when I tell you I was doing everything, I filled out for loss prevention, I filled out for security directors, I filled out for everything in this under the sun. And my wife was like you got a whole it was like, you got a doctorate, like why don't you just teach? I was like, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a professor, like no, nobody, no, like no. And then I became one. And then you know what happened in that instant? I became a full-time criminal justice professor, and I realized right then and there that's where I needed to be. I am still connected to criminal justice. I am still connected to law enforcement, except I'm doing it academically, and it works. And I enjoy it, and it's rare because when I'm talking to my students, when I'm instructing my students, and I'm talking about stuff that's in the book, or I'm talking about stuff that's on a PowerPoint, guess what the first thing they ask me? What How does that work, Dr. Blue, in like when you come across somebody in real life? Then I got to bring out a story. I got to bring out my own personal experiences. And that's the part that works. So not only am I able to express myself academically, but I'm able to express myself professionally. And that's all that police officers want. Brian, I don't have to get tenured. I'm full time, so I'm good. I'm all right. You ain't they can't come, they can't say anything to me. I'm good. I'm full time, baby. Thank God. But yeah, and that's what all with police, that's what happens when the badge comes off. You have to find your purpose. I found mine. Mine is teaching. Mine is molding the minds of the future of criminal justice. Not indoctrinating, teaching. Teaching them, giving them the tools to critically think on their own. I have one student that thinks that all cops are racist. I don't tell her she's wrong, but I ask her to talk me through it. Why do you think that? Let's talk about it. And I feel like that's what's missing today. That's what's missing with police on that's still work police officers that's still on the beat. Critically thinking for yourself. Yes, you have the law behind you, you have the Constitution behind you, you have state law, you have local law, you have ordinances, you have all that stuff behind you. But I need you to critically think as well. And the more you think about it, the more now you have police that they're becoming free thinkers. They're using more discretion, good or bad. Do I really want to go down this rabbit hole over a busted taillight? Do I really want to go through all this for an ounce of weed? You start critically thinking. Police officers are now they're becoming less apolitical. And when I mean apolitical, you're starting to see more police officers show their allegiance to certain politicians, certain ideologies, certain agendas, going to certain going to rallies, expressing themselves more, getting behind candidates that are not just for them personally, but for them professionally. Because for the life of me, I can't understand how you can work under a chief that is watching the city burn, watching his police officers get their heads kicked in, and he's kneeling for the people with George Floyd. And that's what I mean, being able to critically think for yourselves. Because unlike everybody else, when the badge comes off, you are who you are. When that badge came off, I was Prince Blue. I was no longer Officer Blue. I was Prince Blue. I was Prince Blue the conservative. I was Prince Blue the Republican. I was Prince Blue the father. I was Prince Blue the husband. And I had to find a way to make that mesh. Because guess what? Guess what? When I was working with a lot of my fellow officers during like riots and things of that nature, they had stances that I didn't agree with. But professionally, we had a job to do. Do you know how hard it is to be a police officer who's number one a conservative, number one black, number one and number two, number three a Republican? It's hard. Some of your people find out, and some of your fellow officers find out, and they be like, "What? But how? I mean, why not? And why does it matter? I will save your life the same way I would save a skinhead's life on duty. I have a job to do. I took an oath. But what's happening is a lot of people are mixing they're mixing their personal life with their professional life, and it's blending together, and they don't know how to adjust. And they have to figure that out. How? I don't know. But how I figured it out was when I got out. When the badge comes off, you have to be comfortable with the person that you were before the badge. I always says this: a uniform does nothing. A uniform just increases who you already were at your core. If you were a good and fair person, when you put on the badge, you're going to be a good and fair person. If you were a piece of shit, when you put the badge on, you're going to be a piece of shit. You're going to be an even bigger piece of shit because now you have the power to do that. That's it. But the one thing everybody to I want everybody to understand is when you and when I say you, I just got to speak me. When I retired, I often ask myself this question. Do I miss it? You damn right I miss it. But that's not the question I should be asking myself. The question is, would I do it again? Yes. I would be a police officer 100 times out of 100 times. That's not the question. The question is, would I do it now? Hell no. Hell no. And I could say that with my whole chest. In this climate, being a police officer, absolutely not. I'm not I'm not happy with getting called to the office about an arrest I made 5 years ago, because now the climate has changed and now they want to look at video cameras and say this officer cussed 32 times and he hurt this person's feelings. Come here and sign this reprimand. Absolutely not. I'm good. Not in a country where now wrong is right and right is wrong. Where police chiefs kneel while their city is being burnt to the ground. Can't do it. So, with that being said, when the badge comes off, find you a purpose, hobby, spouse, significant other, a puppy, a cat, a dog, a video game. Find you something that gives you purpose. Your purpose may be stupid or silly to somebody else, but if it keeps you sane, it keeps you from, I'm going to be 100% honest. If it keeps you from eating a bullet, then damn it, do it. If you ain't hurt nobody, do it. Because the one thing about this job is it does save a lot of people, because when you're doing it, you feel wanted, you feel need. The camaraderie keeps you going. And at some point when that no longer works, that's when the darkness comes in. That's when what's my purpose of being on this earth? And some officers make that ultimate choice and they remove themselves from this earth. And I don't want to see that anymore. So, I know it got a little melancholy and all that stuff, but that's just real. I told y'all with Black and Blue Lives, always going to give you the real. Is being a police officer fun? Absolutely. It's fantastic. It's funny. You got stories for days. You got stuff you'll remember forever. It's also a one-way street to PTSD, depression, suicide, alcoholism, drug addiction, domestic violence, obesity, death, you name it. Heart attack, high blood pressure, hypertension, whatever you want to call it. Type 2 diabetes. It's a one-way street. Unless you break the pavement and you break that street in half and you never cross over to the side of those bad things. You're on one side, you got the goodness, you got health, you got exercise, you got eating right, you got people around you, you got no drugs, no alcohol, no domestic violence, and on the other side you got all that stuff. I was on that side when it comes to the obesity, the type 2 diabetes, the mental health disorder. I was on that side for that. But I found my way back on the other side. And that's what you have to do. So, that's all I got. I wasn't doing the full hour because, I just felt like I needed to come on and let everybody know what's going on far as the show, because I know we had 2 weeks off because no, we had 1 week off technically because we was on the week before, and last week I was out because I was celebrating my vow renewal, my 10-year anniversary, and I did that. So that was great. And there would be no 10-year anniversary if I didn't have that, if I didn't have a strong family. I didn't have a wife that understood what I needed when I needed it. And she understood how what it took for me to get up out of that place I was in. And she pushed me. And I'm forever grateful for that. So, with that being said, thank you so much for listening. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. You can find me at Real Prince Blue on all social media platforms. Please, please, please take care of yourself, everybody. We will be back next week. Hopefully, me and Step. Like I said, Step he went to a cancer event, and that's something that's near and dear to him. And I salute my brother. I support my brother doing what he has to do. And with that being said, I am out. I appreciate everybody. Oh, the reason why I'm dressed like a b-boy from the 80s on a New York stoop is because the Sixers are playing tonight, and I'm just showing my love. I just put my jersey on, and that's why I'm dressed like a b-boy from the 80s from a New York stoop. Probably the Bronx. The Bronx of Brooklyn. I ain't from no place like Manhattan or nothing like that. That's not a real borough. Manhattan's not a real borough. So with that being said, I'm out of here. I'll catch y'all later. I'll see y'all next week. Oh, make sure you catch me on Real Time Prince Blue tomorrow at 8 p.m. It's going to be a banger. I'm calling out your favorites. I'm having some uncomfortable conversations with some of your favorites, and you do not want to miss it. I'm going to do a promo for this one because I want y'all to understand what's going on tomorrow, and y'all need to be there. With that being said, I am out. See y'all later.
Yeah. Look, black and blue lives. Yeah. Hey, that's a new vibe. Yeah. Hey, black and blue lives. Yeah. Hey, that's a new vibe. Yeah. Hey, park catalyst. I think we got a hit. Yeah. Hey, black and blue lives. Yeah. Look, we got Prince Blue and Steph talking black and blue lives. Yeah. Hey, black and blue